Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something that may shake your thinking, and that's the exact point. You don't get a new life until you get a new mind. And you don't get new money until you get a new mindset. Most people are stuck financially, not because they don't work hard, because they think wrong. You don't rise to your income, you rise to your identity. The money you attract is the result of the mindset you live by. So today, I want to give you 10 money mindset rules that won't just help you earn more, they'll help you become more. Most people spend their entire lives chasing money, but they never stop to question why money keeps running from them. They think money is the answer, but they don't realize that money was never the problem. The problem is the positioning of money in their minds. See, money is a tool, not a god. It's meant to serve you, not master you. But when you elevate money to a position of control, you end up living a life of fear, lack, anxiety, and bondage. Money becomes a tyrant when it's placed on the throne of your heart. And that's what so many people never experience true financial freedom, because they've made money their master instead of their servant. The truth is, money will always respond to the posture of your heart. If you treat money like your master, it will enslave you. But if you treat it like your servant, it will obey you. The rich understand this, but the poor fear money. The rich use money to gain leverage. The poor worship money in silence, hoping it shows up, but never commanding it with authority. When you have the right relationship with money, it shows up to serve your purpose. It shows up to obey your vision. But when you have the wrong relationship with money, it hides. They see it eludes, it controls. See, people often say money changes people, but money doesn't change anything. It reveals everything. It amplifies the character that's already there. If you're selfish without money, you'll be more selfish with it. If you're generous without money, you'll be even more generous with it. That's why the mindset is more important than the money. If you get the money without the mindset, you'll end up back where you started. But if you get the mindset before the money, then when money comes, you'll know exactly what to do with it. Now think about this. See a hammer trying to be a king. A hammer is a tool, they strengthen it, and it knows its role. It doesn't lead, it follows. That's how money should be in your life. It should be like a hammer in the hands of a skilled builder. It doesn't decide the blueprint. It doesn't set the direction. It simply executes the vision of the one holding it. You are the architect. You are the designer. Money is just the tool. But if the hammer starts deciding where the nails go, you're in trouble. And if money starts deciding your decisions, your destiny is compromised. Let me go even deeper. When money is your master, will always make fear-based decisions. You'll stay in jobs you hate because you fear losing a paycheck. You'll avoid investing in yourself because you fear wasting money. You'll undercharge your worth because you fear rejection. That's what happens when money leads your life. You become its slave. But when money is your servant, you make faith-based decisions. You step into purpose. You invest in growth. You charge your worth. You make bold moves. Why? Because money is no longer your source. It's your resource. The only reason most people don't break free financially is because they haven't broken free mentally. They're waiting for a financial breakthrough, but they're still mentally bound. They're trying to earn money from a place of fear, not authority. They're negotiating with money instead of commanding it. When money is your servant, you don't beg for it. You instruct it, you assign it, you allocate it to your vision, your goals, your legacy. And here's the true thing. Money is neutral. It has no emotions. It doesn't care who holds it. It flows to those who understand it. It follows those who respect it without worshiping it. When you idolize money, you push it away spiritually. Because money was never meant to be praised. It was meant to be managed. And until you renew your mind around that truth, you'll keep running in circles, chasing what was meant to be commanded. People say, if I had more money, I'd do more good. But that's a lie. If you're not doing with little, you won't do good much. Money doesn't fix character. It exposes it. They see the strength of that's why some of the most dangerous people are broke people with a poverty mindset praying for wealth. Because if they got the wealth, they wouldn't build with it. They'd destroy themselves and others. That's why God sometimes withholds until your mind is ready for stewardship. When money becomes your servant, you're no longer afraid of losing it because you understand that the same mind that produced it can produce it again. You stop clinging, you start building, you start flowing, you start creating, you operate from abundance, not scarcity. And when you operate from abundance, you start multiplying what others are still chasing. Money starts working for you. Opportunities start chasing you. Doors start opening for you, not because of luck, but because of alignment. You've got to get to a point where you no longer work for money. You work for vision. You don't wake up to earn, you wake up to serve. And in serving, you earn. And in solving problems, money shows up. In walking in purpose, money becomes obedient. But all of that begins when you take money off the throne and put it back in its rightful place as a tool in your toolbox, not a God in your heart. You will never consistently earn beyond the level of who you believe you are. Your income is not a reflection of your hustle. It's a reflection of your identity. Most people try to increase their money without upgrading their mindset. But here's the problem: money always matches belief. You can have the skills, the knowledge, and even the opportunity, but if your internal self-image is rooted in lack, struggle, and survival, you will sabotage every attempt to rise. Because the mind is always working to make sure your reality matches your identity. If you see yourself as broke, life will find a way to confirm that. If you see yourself as a wealthy person walking in purpose, the world will begin to mirror that vision. Identity is the thermostat of your life. Think of it like this: you could walk into a room with a heater set at 70 degrees and open the window to let in a cold wind. The temperature might drop to 60 for a moment, but the thermostat will kick in and bring it right back to 70. That's how your identity works. You might have a good week, a great month, or even a breakthrough financially, but if your inner thermostat is still set to struggle, your subconscious will bring you right back to your baseline. That's why so many people get money and lose it. They get a promotion and then sabotage the opportunity. They see the strength of the client and then underdeliver. It's not because they aren't capable. It's because they're not congruent. Their identity is out of alignment with their income. That's why trying to change your income without changing your identity is like putting expensive wheels on a broken down car. You're making surface changes while the engine is still broken. Until you change how you see yourself, nothing you add to your life will stick. You'll keeping favor, leaking money, leaking relationships because your container, the belief system you're carrying, is cracked. And cracked containers can't hold overflow. They might experience blessing, but they can't sustain it. The blessing leaks out as fast as it comes in. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you see yourself as an unworthy person trying to become successful, success will feel foreign to you. You'll constantly question whether you belong in the room. You'll shrink in conversations. You'll second guess your pricing. You'll play small when you were designed to play big. But if you see yourself as a person of worth, a person walking in divine authority, you won't wait for permission to prosper. You'll walk in expectation. You'll make bold moves. You'll speak with conviction. You'll operate with a sense of destiny, not desperation. Too many people are trying to fix their money while ignoring the real issue, their mirror, because the mirror doesn't lie. The person you see in the mirror is the person your bank account responds to. If you keep seeing someone who's broken, who's never enough, then no matter how much money you earn, your life will find a way to agree with that image. You might get paid more, but you'll spend more. You might earn more, but you'll get away recklessly. You might build something great, but you'll destroy it through fear or doubt. Why? Because you never upgraded your identity. Let's go deeper. There are two voices in your mind: the voice of memory and the voice of destiny. The voice of memory reminds you of where you've been, what you lacked, who hurt you. They see the strength you made. The voice of destiny speaks to where you're going, what you're called to, who you're becoming, what's possible for you. Most people listen to the voice of memory. They define themselves by their past, so they repeat their past. They say, I've never made more than this, and so they never do. They say, no one in my family was wealthy, and so they inherit patterns instead of legacy. But when you start listening to the voice destiny, you start seeing yourself through a different lens. You stop asking, what did I lose? And start asking, what am I carrying? Because you realize your value isn't determined by your history, it's determined by your design. And when your identity catches up to your design, everything changes. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop begging and start commanding. You stop apologizing for wanting more and start embracing the fact that more is already inside of you. You were never meant to live small. You were created in the image of greatness. And once you internalize that truth, not just mentally, but emotionally and spiritually, your income has no choice but to rise to the level of your self-concept. People love to talk about strategy, systems, and tactics, and those are important, but none of them matter if your identity is misaligned. Strategy without belief is like pouring water into a cup with a hole. You keep pouring, but nothing stays. Belief seals the cup. Identity builds the container that can hold success. That's why when you see someone elevate financially, emotionally, or spiritually, it's not just that they learned something new. It's that they became someone new. They outgrew the version of themselves that settled. They stopped tolerating mediocrity. They stepped into a new mental address. And when you move mentally, money has to move with you, because income is tied to energy, and energy flows from identity. If you believe you belong in the room, you'll speak like it. If you believe you're worth more, you'll charge like it. If you believe you're called to impact nations, you'll stop playing like a local. Your life begins to expand in direct proportion to how you see yourself. Your posture shifts. Your vision expands. Because once you see yourself as more, you stop accepting less. And the moment your identity catches up to your calling, your income begins to catch up too. Money flows to value, not effort. Most people have been taught to work hard for money, but no one told them that money doesn't respond to sway. It responds to solutions. You can grind for 12 hours a day and still stay broke if you're not solving the right problems. You can hustle your whole life and still end up empty if you don't understand that value is the currency of wealth. The world doesn't pay you for your time. The world pays you for the transformation you create. The bigger the transformation, the bigger the transaction. So if you want to increase your income, stop asking how to work harder and start asking how to deliver more value. Value is about impact. It's about how much better someone's life becomes because they encountered you, your product, your service, your wisdom. If you can make someone's pain go away, they will pay you for that. If you can save them time, multiply their results, or simplify their process, they will pay you for that. The marketplace doesn't reward people who are just present. It rewards people who are effective. You don't get paid to show up. You get paid to show results. And if your results are minor, your pay will be minor. But if your results are massive, your compensation will reflect it. There's a reason why one person can earn $20 an hour and another can earn $20,000 a day. It's not because one works harder. It's because one solves more valuable problems. High income is the reward for high impact. You complain about how unfair it is, or you can level up and start creating more value. If you're not getting paid what you want, it's because you haven't yet figured out how to deliver what the market wants at a higher level. That's not a punishment. That's an invitation to grow. You are one valuable solution away from a financial breakthrough, but you've got to train your mind to see problems as opportunities. People with a poor mindset run from problems. People with a wealthy mindset run toward them. They understand that every problem is a paycheck in disguise. If someone is confused and you can bring clarity, you've just created value. If someone is overwhelmed and you can simplify the process, you've just created value. They see if someone is stuck and you can unlock them, you just created value. But if you keep showing up with empty hands, no solutions, no insight, no wisdom, then don't be surprised when your bank account reflects the same thing. Your income is a scoreboard that measures how much value you are bringing to others, not about self-worth. It's about marketplace worth. You might be worthy as a person, but if you want the market to reward you financially, you must become valuable to it. The greatest financial breakthrough will come when you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give that's so powerful? People will gladly pay for it. That's the shift from a labor mindset to a creator mindset. Laborers wait to be paid for hours. Creators get paid for outcomes, and outcomes don't take time. They take transformation. And people don't buy your transformation. They don't care how long it took you to learn the skill. They don't care about your degrees or your hustle. They care about what you can do for them. And the faster, deeper, and more impactful your solution is, the more they will invest. When you understand that, you'll stop charging based on time and start charging based on value. They see the strength that you'll stop pricing yourself like a worker and start pricing like a solution. Because a solution is priceless to someone in pain. That's why wealthy people don't sell time. They sell outcomes. They don't pitch hours. They pitch results. They don't focus on what it costs. They focus on what it's worth. You could be sitting on $1 million skill and still living check to paycheck because you're undervaluing what you know. You're thinking in terms of hours instead of impact. But when you shift that, when you begin to understand that your wisdom is an asset, your experience is an asset, your voice asset, everything changes. You start packaging your value. You start protecting your energy. You start pricing your worth. And people who are ready to transform will happily pay. But here's what most people miss: value has to be perceived before it's paid. You could have the most valuable solution in the world, but if no one knows, no one shows, that's why communication is critical. You have to articulate the value. You have to speak the language of results. You have to make it clear how someone's life will be better, faster, easier, or more profitable because of what you bring to the table. If people don't see it, they won't invest. But if people believe you can solve their pain, they will move heaven and earth to pay for that piece. Every wealthy person mastered one thing. They found a problem people were desperate to solve. They mastered the solution, and they became known for delivering it with excellence. That's it. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to have 1 million followers. You just need to be valuable to the right group of people. And that value comes from solving problems better, faster, or deeper than anyone else. You become a magnet not by marketing harder, but by delivering greater outcomes. And when you do that consistently, money no longer becomes something you chase. It becomes something you attract. If you want to change your money, change your method of thinking. Ask yourself daily, what problem do I solve? Who is in pain right now that I can serve? How can I position my value in a way that commands attention, respect, and compensation? Because the marketplace is not a place of fairness. It's a place of exchange. If you're not exchanging value, you're not earning income. But if you're delivering value at a high level, income becomes inevitable. The money follows the mission. The compensation follows the contribution. The overflow follows the outcome. But it all begins with understanding that money moves at the speed of value. Wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your belief system. Most people are trying to fix their finances without ever fixing their foundation. They think wealth is just about dollars and cents, but real wealth is built on truth. The most powerful manual ever written isn't a business book, it's the word. The same word that framed the universe has the power to reframe your thinking and redirect your destiny. But if you're only looking for strategies and not truth, you'll always be limited to human ideas instead of divine instructions. Wealth built on hustle alone can crumble, but wealth built on wisdom will last for generations. You can read every business book in the world, but if your thinking is still rooted in fear, lack, or limitation, you'll never be able to sustain success. That's why the foundation matters. The word doesn't just tell you how to make money. It tells you how to steward it. It doesn't just reveal how to gain. It shows you how to give, grow, and multiply. That's kingdom economics. It's not about how much you have. It's about how well you manage what you've been given. Because stewardship is the secret to supernatural increase. If you're faithful over a little, you qualify for more. But if you mismanage what's in your hand, why would heaven trust you with what's in your heart? The word also teaches that wealth is connected to purpose. Money without mission is meaningless. You weren't created to chase cash. You were designed to create change. That means your wealth must be connected to your why. When you align your money with your mission, everything flows. Resources show up. Favor follows you. Opportunities open. Because purpose attracts provision. But when you disconnect your wealth from your assignment, you start walking in circles, but not effective, moving, but not advancing. And that's how people stay stuck trying to prosper in the wrong position. The reason the word is the greatest wealth manual is because it corrects your thinking before it multiplies your income. If you don't renew your mind, you'll ruin your harvest. A poor mindset in a rich season will still produce poverty because you'll either waste what you've been given or fear that you're going to lose it. But when your mind is anchored in truth, you operate from a place of peace, not panic. You give without fear. You build without doubt. You invest without anxiety because you know that your source is secure. Every principle of prosperity is already outlined in Scripture. Seed time and harvest, giving and receiving, stewardship and multiplication. These aren't just spiritual ideas. They are wealth-building systems. The world copies these principles, strips out the spirit, and calls it strategy. But those who are rooted in the word don't just chase results. They produce fruit, and fruit remains. That's the difference between people who get rich fast and people who build wealth that lasts. One is built on shifting sand. The other is built on a rock. There's a reason why some people tithe and still stay broke. It's not about a transaction. It's about transformation. If you give out of guilt, fear, or obligation, you've missed the point. Giving is an act of alignment, not performance. It says, God, I trust you as my source, not this paycheck. And when you trust God with your first, he'll bless the rest. But when you hold back out of fear, you cut off the flow. They see the strength because fact activates favor, but fear activates frustration. You can't walk in abundance with a clenched fist. You've got to open your hand to give so you can open your life to receive. Wealth that starts in the word is built on principles that never expire. Markets crash, currencies change, industries shift, but truth remains. The word teaches you not just how to build income, but how to build legacy. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. That's generational thinking. That's long-term vision. But if you're just living for the next bill, you'll never build the next blessing. The word teaches you to think beyond the moment, to think about influence and inheritance. When your wealth is routed in the word, you stop making emotional decisions and start making principle-based decisions. You stop buying things to look rich and start investing to become rich. You stop chasing trends and start building on truth because you understand that money is not just about what you can spend. It's about what you can steward. And see that stewardship isn't about saving or budgeting. It's about vision, discipline, and alignment. When your money is aligned with divine principles, you don't have to force it. You flow in it. They see the strength of them. Many people are waiting for God to bless them financially, but God is waiting them to follow the blueprint. He doesn't bless confusion. He blesses order. He blesses diligence. He blesses faith. And all of that starts in the word. When you prioritize principles over emotions, when you follow truth over trends, when you operate from instead of impulse, you position yourself to prosper, not just for a season, but for a lifetime. Most of the financial struggle people face isn't because they're cursed. It's because they're out of alignment. You can't expect overflow when you're out of order. You can't expect harvest without planting seeds. You can't expect promotion without preparation, and you can't expect God to bless what you've built if you build it on ego, fear, or greed. The word teaches you to build with purpose, to build with integrity, to build with wisdom. And when you do, you're not just building wealth, you're building legacy, you're building stability, you're building something that can't be shaken by economic conditions or cultural trends. So the real wealth strategy isn't just learning more about business, branding, or marketing. It's going back to the manual. The word is not just a book of encouragement, it's a book of instructions. Inside it are strategies for entrepreneurship, principles for leadership, systems for stewardship, and mindsets for multiplication. When you build your financial life on that foundation, everything else becomes a tool, not your source. Strategies can shift, platforms can change, algorithms can fail, but the principles of the word will never return void. Most people believe their financial problem is a money problem, but it's not. It's a mindset problem. They think if they just had more money, everything would change. But that's not true. Because see, the root issue isn't the amount of money you have, it's the way you think about the money you have. You don't need more money, you need better thinking. Better thinking creates better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. A millionaire mind in a broke season will find a way to produce increase. A poverty mind in a wealthy season will find a way to lose it all. The problem isn't the money, it's the mind that's managing it. This is why so many people win big and then lose it fast. They get a promotion, a business deal, a tax refund, or even a lottery win, and a few months later, they're right back to zero. Because the money outgrew their mindset. Their outer world increased, but inner world stayed the same. And when your inner world and outer world don't match, one of them has to come into alignment. And if you don't intentionally elevate your thinking, your circumstances will collapse back to your beliefs. The mindset you carry is always working behind the scenes to bring your life back to what feels familiar. That's why you can get rich and still feel broke, because until your thoughts shift, your money will drift. Money doesn't change your identity. It reveals it. It amplifies what you already believe. If you believe money is hard to get, it will always feel just out of reach. If you believe you don't deserve more, you'll subconsciously sabotage your own progress. If you believe you're not smart enough or connected enough or qualified enough, you'll disqualify yourself from opportunities that are meant for you. And you'll call it humility when it's really insecurity. You'll call it caution when it's really fear. You'll call it wisdom when it's really doubt. All of it flows from your thinking. The problem is not what's in your hand, it's what's in your head. Better thinking begins with responsibility. You got to stop blaming circumstances and start owning your choices. You're not a victim of the economy, your upbringing, your boss are the gatekeeper of your mindset. And as long as you keep outsourcing responsibility, you'll keep outsourcing results. Nothing changes until you do. Your thinking got get you here, and only better thinking will get you out. You've got to ask yourself the hard questions. What beliefs am I holding that are blocking my increase? What patterns do I keep repeating? What financial ceilings have I accepted as normal? What lies have I believed about money, wealth, or success? Once you identify the lie, you replace it with truth, because transformation only happens through the renewal of the mind. Then not by getting a raise, not by selling more products, not hoping for a better year, but by renewing your mind. You've got to audit your internal script. Most people are broke because their thoughts are broke. They're not poor in the wallet. They're poor in their imagination. They can't see themselves living better, earning more, or building wealth because their vision is trapped inside the boundaries of their past. But your past is not your prison unless you choose to keep the door locked. Better thinking will take you places your background never could. Every upgrade in your life begins with an upgrade in your thoughts. You don't stumble into success. You think your way into it. And when your thoughts shift, your habits shift, you start making different decisions about how you spend, save, give, and grow your money. You stop living on reaction and start living on revelation. You stop making decisions out of fear and start making them out of faith. You stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a creator, because wealth doesn't come to those who spend, it comes to those who multiply. That's why some people can turn 100 into dollars while others turn $1,000 into $100. It's not about the resource, it's about the reasoning. You've got to shift from survival mode to strategy mode. They see the strength from paycheck thinking to purpose thinking, from short-term gains to long-term vision, from getting money to growing money. That shift doesn't require more effort. It requires more wisdom. And wisdom starts with asking the right questions. How can I turn my skill into service? How can I solve problems for others? How can I stop consuming and start creating? Those questions don't come from a broke mind. They come from a renewed one. When you begin to think differently, you start noticing things you never saw before. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. You see potential where others see problems. You see assets where others see liabilities, because your perception has changed. And when your perception changes, your reality starts to align. Money starts showing up because your thinking makes room for it. Favor starts flowing because your mindset welcomes it. You're no longer shrinking when opportunity knocks. You're opening the door, prepared, equipped, and ready. The truth is, most people don't have a money shortage. They have a clarity shortage. They're chasing things instead of changing things. They're buying into trends instead of transforming their thoughts. They think more money will fix their problems, but all it does is expose them. If you don't handle 100,000 wisely, you won't handle $10,000 wisely. If you don't respect your current level, you won't be trusted with the next. That's why better thinking is the greatest investment you can ever make, because a renewed mind will produce a renewed life. They see the strength of that. You don't need more hours, you need more wisdom. You don't need a bigger paycheck, you need a bigger paradigm. Because when you shift the way you think, you shift the way you operate. You stop waiting for a raise and start becoming the one who gives them. You stop begging for blessings and start walking in authority. You stop reacting to your environment and start creating one. All of that begins when you stop thinking about what you lack and start thinking about who you are becoming. Poverty has nothing to do with how much is in your pocket and everything to do with what's in your mind. You can have a six-figure job and still operate in poverty. You can have access to resources and still live like a bigar. Poverty is not a paycheck issue. It's a perspective issue. It's a mindset that whispers, you can't, even when the opportunity says you can't. It's the voice that says, don't try, even when the door is wide open. It's the thinking that convinces you to play small, stay safe, and avoid risk because failure feels more familiar than success. Poverty is sneaky. It doesn't always show up looking poor. It shows up in how you think, how you speak, and how you behave. It shows up when you see someone winning and your first response is envy instead of inspiration. It shows up when you undercharge for your work because you don't believe you're worth more. It shows up when you spend everything you earn because a poverty mindset doesn't believe in preparation, only pleasure. It shows up in fear of investing, fear of asking, fear of selling, fear of growing. Poverty doesn't live in your bank account. It lives in your decisions. One of the biggest signs of a poverty mindset is waiting for someone else to rescue you, waiting for the government, waiting for a lucky break, waiting for a miracle with no movement. Waiting is not a wealth strat. Ownership is. Wealthy people don't wait. They create, they move, they take responsibility for their outcome. They don't spend time blaming systems, circumstances, or other people. Even when things are unfair, they don't surrender their power. They look for what they can control and they maximize it. Because a wealthy mindset understands that your breakthrough begins where your excuses end. You can't be free financially, stay bound mentally. You have to take ownership of your life, your choices, and your future. Ownership says, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm responsible for getting there. Ownership says, no one owes me anything, but I owe it to myself to show up with excellence. Ownership says, I refuse to settle for survival when I was created to dominate. That's the mindset that breaks poverty. Not just wanting more, but taking full responsibility for becoming more, because money follows responsibility. Income follows ownership. When you take control of your narrative, your life starts shifting in response. Poverty makes you afraid of money, afraid to lose it, afraid to manage it, afraid to talk about it. That fear turns into avoidance. And avoidance turns into sabotage. You don't try to plan your income. You don't set goals. You hope for more, but never prepare for more. You keep repeating the same patterns, spending recklessly, ignoring debt, underinvesting in yourself, all while praying for increase. But you can't receive in your hands what you haven't made room for in your mind. God doesn't bless confusion. He blesses order. And order starts with ownership. Wealthy people aren't smarter, they just think differently. They think in terms of growth, leverage, assets, and legacy. They don't spend everything on pleasure, they invest in purpose. They don't measure success by status, they measure it by sustainability. They don't react emotionally to money, they respond strategically. And those habits didn't come from having money, they came from changing their mindset. From learning, stretching, applying, and repeating, from facing fears and developing discipline, from walking away from broke habits and adopting wealthy behaviors long before the money ever showed up. The poverty mindset is fueled by scarcity. It says there's not enough, so you hoard what you have or waste it on things that give temporary comfort. It says don't dream too big because people like you don't get to live like that. It says play it safe because risk is dangerous. But the wealthy mindset operates from abundance. It says there's more than enough so I can give, invest, and grow. It says my dreams are valid, my future is valuable, and my actions matter. They see the strength. It says risk is not the enemy, ignorance is, and I can learn, grow, and outthink any situation I face. When you shift from poverty to wealth in your mind, everything around you begins to shift. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You stop apologizing for wanting more and start preparing to manage more. You stop shrinking around success, start standing in confidence. You don't beg for opportunities, you create them. You don't wait for someone to choose you. You build something that makes you impossible to ignore. You stop being afraid of money and start commanding it with wisdom, because now you see money as a tool, not a trap, as a servant, not a master, as something to be managed, not worshipped or feared. This transformation isn't about income brackets. It's about identity. When you believe you are called impact, to build, to prosper, to lead, your financial behavior starts aligning with that belief. You treat your time differently. You treat your gifts differently. You treat your future differently. You no longer live like a victim of life. You operate like a steward of destiny. You no longer settle for what's handed to you. You create your call to manifest. You no longer run from responsibility. You embrace it with authority. This is why poverty can't be fixed by just handing people money. Because if the mindset remains the same, the results will repeat. Until people are taught to see themselves differently, nothing changes. You can rescue someone financially and still leave them mentally enslaved. But if you teach someone to think differently, they'll break out of every box they were born into. They'll see possibility where there once only pain. They'll build what no one in their bloodline has ever built. They'll shift their entire legacy, not by what they earn, but what they believe. Poverty is broken when you stop seeing yourself as powerless, when you stop making excuses and start making moves. When you stop chasing validation and start walking in vision, when you stop treating money like a mystery and start treating it like a muscle, something to train, grow, and master. You were not born to be limited. You were not created to be average. You were designed to rule, to build, to multiply, to steward, to lead. And that begins not with your paycheck, but with your mindset. Because before money ever reaches your hands, it has to pass through your head. Most people are stressed about money not because they don't work hard, because they don't have a system. They're reacting to money instead of directing it. They're trying to outrun chores with more effort, more hours, more hustle. But what they really need is order, because money doesn't grow in stress. It grows in systems. Wealthy people don't operate by chance. They operate by choice. They don't leave their finances up to emotion. They build structures that produce predictability, clarity, and multiplication. The average person gets paid and spends hoping there's something left. The wealthy build a plan, tell every dollar where to go, and multiply what others waste. Without a system, your money will always slip through your hands. You'll always feel behind, even when you earn more. You'll always be confused, even when you increase your income. That's why people making six figures can still live paycheck to paycheck. It's not about how much they earn. It's about how they manage what they earn. SIS creates space for growth. Systems take emotion out of the equation. When you have a system, you're not guessing, you're not overwhelmed, you're aligned. Because systems create clarity, and clarity attracts increase. The problem with most people is that they try to manage money based on how they feel. If they feel broke, they hoard. If they feel good, they splurge. If they feel anxious, they avoid their finances altogether. But wealthy people don't wait to feel good to manage well. They manage by principle. They set percentages. They schedule reviews. They use automation. They separate accounts for different purposes. They don't trust their feelings. They trust the system, because feelings fluctuate, but systems stay stable. And stability is the foundation for scalability. Money grows when it's given structure. Without structure, money wanders. It gets lost in random purchases, unplanned expenses, and emotional decisions. But when you put your money in a system, it starts serving your vision. You know where it's going, why it's going there, and how it's working for you. They see the strength of it. You're just spending, you're sowing, you're not just strategizing, you're not just expanding. That's the difference between surviving and building. One is about reacting. The other is about ruling. A system to starts vision, a decision to stop living on accident and start living on assignment, a decision to stop hoping and start planning, a decision to give your money a mission. Every dollar needs a job. If you don't assign it, it will disappear. You need a giving system, a saving system, an investing system, and a spending system. You need to know what percentage goes where before the money shows up. That way, of the moment it hits your account, it's already moving the direction of your vision. That's not restriction. That's freedom, because now you have peace, you have purpose, you have power. Stress comes when your vision is bigger than your structure. When you're dreaming of more but managing less. You can't grow what you can't control, and you can't control what you refuse to track. That's why so many people stay stuck. They're trying to multiply disorganization, but money doesn't grow in confusion. It grows in order. It grows in discipline. It grows in systems. And the good news is systems don't require wealth. They produce it. You don't need more money to build a system. You need more intention, more clarity, more commitment. A system is not a spreadsheet. A system is a lifestyle. It's how you think, how you prioritize, how you decide. It's the set of habits and routines you build around your money. It's the way you approach your financial goals, track your progress, and adjust your strategy. It's the discipline to stick with the plan, even when it's boring, even when it's slow, even when nobody else understands it, because you're not building for likes. You're building for legacy. And legacy doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. Wealth people don't wait until they feel broke to review their numbers. They check in regularly. They study patterns. They evaluate expenses. They assess performance. Because they understand that what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets multiplied. You can't master money you refuse to look at. Avoidance is not wisdom. It's sabotage. And too many people stay broke because they'd rather stay blind than face the truth. But truth is the gateway to transformation. When you know what's really happening, you can start changing it. Systems also help you separate emotion from execution. You might feel like buying that thing, but your system tells you it doesn't align with your budget. You might feel like skipping that investment, but your system reminds you of your long-term vision. You might feel overwhelmed, but your system brings you back to focus. That's the power of structure. It becomes your accountability when your discipline gets tired. It becomes your guide when your motivation runs out. It becomes your guardrail when life gets chaotic. The absence of a system invites chaos. The presence of a system creates peace. That's why the people who seem the calmest about money are the ones who have the most order. They're not guessing, they're governing. They're not chasing, they're creating. They're not living in stress, they're living in structure. And that structure gives them the space to innovate, invest, and increase, because they're not worried about surviving. They're focused on scaling. Most people think their financial life will change with more money, but money doesn't fix mismanagement. It magnifies it. If you're disorganized with a little, you'll be disorganized with a lot. But if you build systems at your current level, you'll be ready for the next. You'll expand to increase instead of collapsing under it. You'll multiply opportunity instead of missing it. You'll steward well, not by accident, but by design. Because when your money is in order, your life starts to align with abundance, not because you hustled harder, but because you finally built the system that supports success. Most people talk about wanting wealth, but they're not ready for what wealth requires. They want the overflow without the obedience. They want the harvest without the habits. But the truth is, wealth doesn't come to those who wish. It comes to those who are willing to grow, willing to stretch, willing to sacrifice, willing to shift. The willing to do what average people won't do so they can live the life average people never will. Because wealth isn't a reward for effort. It's a result of alignment. And until your character, habits, vision, and decisions are aligned with the level you say you want, you'll keep watching wealth pass you by. People are asking for abundance, but still holding on to broke behaviors. They're speaking prosperity, but still thinking in poverty. That they're expecting increase while tolerating excuses. But wealth only flows where there is agreement between what you say, what you believe, and what you do. They see the strength of you can't declare generational wealth and still live in daily confusion. You can't claim you're a builder and then shrink back every time you face pressure. They see the strength of you can't talk about being the head and not the tail while spending like you know vision. The life you want is locked inside the discipline you've been avoiding. The reason most people never reach their financial potential is because they never commit to the process that produces it. They want sudden increase, not steady growth. They want breakthrough without consistency. But wealth is the fruit of what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally try. It's built in the dark long before it's seen in public. It's forged through routines, principles, and daily choices that most people never see but always feel in the results. Wealth is quiet on the front end and loud on the back end. You plant in silence and harvest in noise, but you only harvest what you're faithful to cultivate. The average person is more committed to comfort than they are to change. They would rather keep doing what's familiar, even if it's failing, than risk doing something unfamiliar that could set them free. But you cannot change your financial situation without changing your financial habits. That means tracking what you've been ignoring, confronting what you've been avoiding, saying no to what drains you so you can say yes to what builds you. You can't pray your way out of a money problem you keep behaving your way into. Prayer is powerful, but discipline is proof. Your behavior is either building your blessing or blocking it. Wealth responds to stewardship. And stewardship isn't just about what you do with money. It's about what you do with time, with energy, with relationships, with revelation. Every blessing comes with a responsibility. And if you mishandle the responsibility, you disqualify yourself from the next level of blessing. That's why God often tests you with little before he trusts you with more. They see the strength of them, not because he's withholding, but because he's watching. He's looking for someone who won't let increase change their character, someone who won't let options distract them from obedience, someone who can stay faithful with 5 so he can release 50. Most people want God to bless what they haven't built. They want favor without preparation. They want multiplication without maturity. But God doesn't bless potential. He blesses preparations. He blesses intention. If you're too casual what you have, you'll never access what's next. Because wealth doesn't show up where there's chaos. It shows up where there's clarity. Wealth doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to discipline. You can cry about what you lack, or you can commit to stewarding what you have. One keeps you stuck. The other sets you up. Wealth people don't just think differently. They don't spend money to impress. They spend to invest. They don't chase trends, they create them. They don't hoard out of fear, they allocate with purpose. Every dollar has direction. Every decision has intention. Every action is connected to vision, because they understand that every small move compounds. Every habit builds. Every seed matters. Wealth is not one big move. It's a million small ones that align with a bigger picture. And until your daily decisions match your destiny, wealth will always feel out of reach. You have to become the person who can handle of what you're asking for. If you want to carry millions, you need the mindset, the habits, and the structure to carry millions. Otherwise, the money will become a burden instead of a blessing. It will crush you instead of elevate you. That's why God won't always give you what you ask for. He'll give you what you're ready for. He, the strength, doesn't respond to noise. He responds to stewardship. And if you've been praying for more, check your principles. Because more is always available, but not always accessible. Most people are busy trying to look rich instead of becoming wealthy. They buy liabilities before they build assets. They spend money to escape their reality instead of investing to create a new one. But wealth builders do it differently. They delay what doesn't serve so they can dominate what does. They sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term freedom. They understand that temporary discipline produces permanent change. And they're not afraid to walk alone for a season if it means building something that will bless generations. You cannot keep living like everybody else, expect to be financially uncommon. They see the strength of it. You have to decide that the life you want matters more than the life you're trying to impress people with. You have to stop asking what's affordable and start asking what's fruitful. You have to stop blaming what's missing and start maximizing what's present. You have to stop shrinking when it's hard, showing up when it counts. Wealth is not for the lucky. It's for the aligned. For those who are willing to do what others won't. For those who are done talking and ready to build. For those who understand that your future is not determined by your feelings. It's determined by your focus. Every level of wealth you desire is on the other side of a decision to stop tolerating cycles, a decision to walk in authority, a decision to stop reacting and start ruling, a decision to treat your gift with excellence, a decision to walk like what you carry is valuable, because it is. And when you decide that your assignment deserves more than your excuses, wealth begins to respond, not just in your bank account, but in your habits, your posture, your peace, and your purpose. Because wealth is not just what you have, it's what you think, how you live, and what you leave behind. Listen to me. Your money will never grow beyond your mindset. If you don't renew your thoughts, you'll repeat your cycles. You weren't born to struggle financially. You were born to reign. You were designed for dominion, not desperation. Change your mind and money will follow. Shift your focus from hustle to stewardship, from fear to faith, from survival to significance. Because when you get your mindset right, you won't just get money, you'll keep it, grow.